Good day, and welcome to the Government House Weekly Press Briefing and COVID-19 update for the week of November 14th, 2022. For the benefit of the radio listening audience, I'm Government House Communications Director Richard Mota. Dr. Esther Ellis is joining me on behalf of Health Commissioner Justa Encarnacion this afternoon for the latest COVID-19 data and monkeypox data and information on where Virgin Islands residents can get a free COVID-19 test, vaccine, and booster shot, and also to share information on where and how you can get vaccinated against monkeypox. I also have with me, joining us virtually, the GIS Director, Chris George, from the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, to discuss the launch of the territory-wide street addressing initiative and the upcoming town hall in St. John. But before we go to the Department of Health, the Office of Management and Budget has begun its Social Security Benefit Stipend check distribution at the Rudolph Schalterbrand Agricultural Fairground this morning on St. Croix. By all accounts, the distribution of those checks is moving along, save for some traffic delays in the area that occurred this morning. As a reminder, the distribution of the Social Security Benefit Stipend in St. Croix will continue through 4 p.m. today. We'll resume tomorrow, Tuesday, November 15th at 9 a.m. and continue through this Friday, November 18th. Please note there is no need to park up or line up before the 9 a.m. opening. We understand individuals want to get through as early as possible. However, when you start lining up hours before the 9 a.m. opening, you lend to creating a traffic bottleneck. I assure you that everyone who qualifies will receive their payments. The distribution operation begins at 9 a.m. and continues through 4 p.m. daily. So if you have some flexibility, please take your time. Again, as a reminder, the distribution operation in St. Croix is being conducted by alphabet, with individuals whose last names begin with the letters A through F being required to come and pick up their checks or collect their checks today. If your last name begins with letters G through L, tomorrow, Tuesday, November 15th, is the day to pick up your checks. Checks for those individuals whose last names start with the letters M through R will be available on Wednesday, November 16th, and on Thursday, November 17th. Checks will be available for those individuals whose last names begin with the letters S through Z. For those of you who can't make either of those days, you can pick up your check on Friday between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Check distribution in the St. Thomas District continues today as normal in the parking lot at the Roy Lester Schneider Regional Medical Center and at the St. John Administrator's Office in Cruz Bay for those residents who are living on the island of St. John. You also have the option to have your check mailed to you if you do not want to stand in any line. If you'd like to have your check mailed to you or sent to you in the mail, send an email to arpa@omb.vi.gov with SSA stipend in the subject line of that email, and with your full name, your contact number, the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, and your current mailing address in the body of that email. Again, I'll repeat that. If you do not wish to stand in any of the lines, you also have the option to have the check mailed to you, and you can do so by sending an email to arpa@omb.vi.gov with SSA stipend in the subject line of that email, and your full name, your contact number, the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, and your current mailing address in the body of that email. With that, I will turn over this afternoon's briefing to Dr. Ellis from the Department of Health. Dr. Ellis?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mota, and good day to all Virgin Islanders. This week's COVID-19 numbers are as follows. We have a total of 43 active cases territory-wide, 31 on St. Croix, 12 on St. Thomas, and 0 on St. John, and our hospitalizations territory-wide totaled 2, 1 on St. Croix at JFL, and 1 on St. Thomas at SRMC. COVID-19 and flu vaccines for adults remain available at all VIDOH community health clinics, and you can conveniently get both vaccines together. The new temporary hours for the St. Croix Community Health Clinics are Monday to Thursday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. On St. Thomas, community health clinics are for COVID vaccines, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to noon, and 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. For flu vaccines, please call 340-774-7477 to make an appointment. All persons desiring a COVID-19 booster are asked to be sure to bring their COVID-19 vaccine card and a photo identification card. COVID-19 and flu vaccines for children aged 6 months and older are available at the Maternal and Child Health Clinics, or MCH. Appointments at MCH for these vaccines are necessary. Please telephone 340-244-0016 on St. Croix, 340-777-8804, extension 2600 on St. Thomas, and 340-776-6400 on St. John to arrange an appointment for your child. COVID testing remains available on St. Croix Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. in the Charles Harwood Memorial parking lot. On St. Thomas, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. at the Schneider Regional Medical Center loading dock. And on St. John on Wednesday, from noon to 3 at the Vipa Gravel lot. Last week, the Department of Health talked about the respiratory syncytial virus, also known as RSV. Typically, RSV affects children under 2 years, but can also affect adults. This virus usually has mild symptoms, including fever, cough, and runny nose. RSV is a public health concern because it can lead to pneumonia or bronchitis, requiring hospitalization, or cause severe complications for people with weakened immune systems. Nationally, the number of RSV cases being reported is high, and pediatric hospitalizations are significantly increasing. Both VI hospitals report hospitalizations for RSV, with currently 6 admissions at Schneider Regional Medical Center and 1 admission at Wanaflui Medical Center. It is important to note that COVID-19, influenza, and RSV all have similar symptoms, and it is possible to become infected with more than one of these respiratory illnesses at the same time. When co-infections occur, the outcome can be more severe. Today, there is no vaccine for RSV, but there are effective vaccines for both COVID-19 and influenza. That is why the VIDOH recommends everyone, especially children ages 6 months and older, get vaccinated against influenza and COVID-19. The Department of Health asks everyone to conduct respiratory hygiene with frequent hand washing, coughing into elbows or tissue, and staying at home while sick. We are also happy to report that the territory continues to have no confirmed monkeypox cases. Anyone wishing to receive a monkeypox vaccine can telephone 340-690-6301 to arrange an appointment. In closing, the Department of Health wants to acknowledge World Diabetes Day, as well as November being National Diabetes Month, a time when communities across the country team up to bring attention to diabetes. This year's focus is on managing diabetes by building your healthcare team. Thank you for the time, Mr. Mota. Now back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. As I mentioned at the top, we have GIS Director Chris George here to discuss the latest on the street naming initiative street addressing initiative through the Office of the Lieutenant Governor and an upcoming town hall in St. John. So at this time, I'll turn over the briefing to Director George. Director?
Good afternoon, Director Mota. Good afternoon, Dr. Ellis. Good afternoon, people of the Virgin Islands. It's an exciting time at the Office of Lieutenant Governor as we're entering the territory-wide phase of the Street Addressing Initiative. For those who don't know, the Street Addressing Initiative is a project initiated by the Office of Lieutenant Governor to create a nationally standardized address scheme for the entire territory. That is all the major islands, outlying keys that have roads, as well as the street signage that goes along with those street names. We have entered the territory-wide phase through grant funding that was allotted to the Office of Lieutenant Governor through the Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority's Community Development Block Grant Fund. So we were able to attain $5.09 million to complete the entire territory. That is for the addressing as well as for the actual physical signage that is going up. So we are thankful to the Housing Finance Authority for helping us walk through that process that we finally approved. Now, for the first part of the territory-wide phase is we're going to complete St. John. So St. John will be the first island in the Virgin Islands that will have a standardized addressing system, but as well as a historic milestone, whereas we will be the first Caribbean island to have an entire addressing scheme from town to tip, the entire island, not just in the townships, and as well as the first American territory to have a fully addressed scheme. So that puts the Virgin Islands on definitely an escalating level of improvements in our critical infrastructure. So what is going to happen is on Thursday, this Thursday, we're holding our launch meeting in St. John at the Legislative Hall in Cruz Bay, and we're inviting all our stakeholders, we're inviting all our residents of St. John to participate, to get information about how they themselves can participate, the actual flow and status of the project, as well as what they can see as we go through and traverse through the extent of the phase in St. John. So that will be on St. John on Thursday, this Thursday coming, and it will be at 7 p.m. and we'll be announcing a whole heap. We'll have a lot of information and resources available for the people of St. John to use. And we are thankful for folks in St. John that have been actively participating in the project, that have been submitting names to get their streets named in their residence and their neighborhoods. For the rest of the territory, this is a great time for us to get together as in our neighborhoods, our residents, our homeowners associations, our community groups, to get names. If you know you live on an area that has no names of their streets, we have the process, the procedures and protocols for you to go ahead and name the streets in your areas. So we're hoping that the residents can continue to actively participate in the process of the Street Addressing Initiative. So we have a lot of information online on our Facebook pages, the Lieutenant Governor's Office Facebook page, as well as the GISD Facebook page, that you can find information about the entire extent of the Street Addressing Initiative from its inception until we're up in here now. As well as you can find on there is all of our documentation. We're going to be completely transparent with the information. So we have all our signed and executed contracts will be there. Correction, so that the town hall is at 6 p.m. in St. John Administrative Annex. Okay. So from there, you'll be able to get information about how the streets are named, how you can participate in getting names, getting the procedures of contacting your neighborhoods, contacting your neighbors, getting them to sign off on names that you all agree on. And this will allow us to process the information of naming the entire territory. So we are thankful to our stakeholders who have been participating in the project from its inception. So our VITEMA, VI Police Department, VI Fire Service, Public Works, DPNR, Economic Development Authority, Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority, Virgin Islands Energy Office, WAPA, the list goes on, U.S. Postal Service, VIA, VINGN. So we're definitely thankful for the active participation of all our stakeholders, and as well as the community at large that has embraced this project so far and to see it to its end result. So please come out, St. John. We're looking forward to seeing you this Thursday. If you need any information about the project specifically, you can check us online, like I said, and then you can give us a call at 340-693-6191 or email us at sai@lgo.vi.gov. Once again, that's sai@lgo.vi.gov or 340-693-6191. So thank you, Director. I will be here for any questions.
Thank you, Director George. Have some exciting news for the territory. After months of discussion and negotiation between the USVI and BVI governments, the governor is pleased to announce that BVI Premier Natalia Whitley and Deputy Premier Kai Reimer have agreed to a reciprocal regulatory program regarding charter boating in the USVI and BVI waters. The Governor and Lieutenant Governor want to thank the Premier and Deputy Premier for agreeing on the new requirements for chartering in both waters that benefit the BVI and USVI economies. Charter boating and other related marine industries are very impactful to our economies. In the absence of a reciprocal program of chartering for vessels based in the USVI seeking to enter BVI waters, the USVI had taken a position that BVI charter, water taxis, and charter pickup and drop-off vessels had to comply strictly with established provisions for doing business in the USVI. That such access and use was not for free and could be fully regulated by the USVI and federal government agencies. The newly adopted system will permit BVI vessels to enter the USVI's cruising waters, docks, and marinas upon proper check-in compliance with Customs and Border Patrol stations and compliance with U.S. Coast Guard regulations upon showing an appropriate business license and vessel inspection in the BVI and payment of requisite entry fees or permitting in the USVI. Likewise, the British Virgin Islands will permit U.S. Virgin Islands-based licensed vessels to utilize BVI territorial waters for day charters and term charters upon payment and requisite fees. Upon payment of the requisite fees, this reciprocal relationship restores friendly boating and use of each other's territories, each territory's waters and picturesque scenery. Reciprocal arrangements for the entry of water taxis and charter boats to pick up and drop off passengers in the U.S. Virgin Islands and the BVI at their docks are also in process. Other technical provisions have also been developed. This has been a long developing arrangement based on mutual desires to enhance friendship between the two territories. And for those people who may be familiar with the industry, know how very close and intricately tied both of these, the BVI charter industry and the USVI charter industry is, and the travel between those two. And so this reciprocal agreement, I think, is, as mentioned, a great benefit to many of those charter businesses who service clients between both territories. And so that's good news, and more to come on that. But that has just been announced this morning, and so there'll be more information on that. In closing, this past week, Governor Bryan hosted Secretary of Interior Deb Haaland and Assistant Secretary of for Insular and International Affairs Carmen G. Cantor to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Secretary Haaland met with Governor Bryan Thursday and joined the governor on Friday at the annual Veterans Day celebration held in Charlotte Amalie, and for meetings to discuss several matters pertaining to national parkland in the territory and the department's efforts to bolster coastal and climate resilience in the U.S. territories. Secretary Haaland visited all three islands and is the third White House cabinet member to visit the territory since the Biden administration took office in 2021. Finally, before I take any questions from the media, I just want to inform the community that Governor Bryan is out of the territory on personal leave until Saturday, November 19th, during which period Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roach will serve as acting governor until Governor Bryan returns. With that, I will take any questions from the media, and I see that we have at least one joining us virtually. Someone from the Virgin Islands Daily News. I'm not sure which reporter that is, but go ahead.
Good afternoon, it's Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne.
Hi. Last week I asked for staff update the implementation of the medical cannabis law. I've sent you questions, the LCA commissioner, again, questions. OCR director, Hannah Carty question. No response. So is that law abandoned?
Can you repeat that? The last part of that question is what law amended?
Has the government abandoned efforts to implement medical law?
No, it has not. And as I mentioned to you last week, you would have to reach out to the Office of Cannabis Registry for a detailed update on where exactly they stand in promulgating those rules and regulations. I do not have that information currently, and so you would have to reach out to them.
The governor's budget anticipates $10 million in tax revenue from legal cannabis sales, correct?
Yeah, there was also enabling legislation that was sent down with that budget. So that tax revenue was to come from the from the Cannabis Use Act being passed and assuming that that adult recreational use of cannabis would be the law of the land in the territory, and would be an industry that would be set up, and we could realize tax revenue from that. As I mentioned to you last week, that legislation has not been acted upon and is still in the legislature.
Correct, but the Office of Cannabis Registry said they anticipated opening licenses for cultivators in October, and that hasn't happened. It takes 3 to 8 months to grow cannabis. So is that $10 million reasonable, and where will it come from if not from legal cannabis sales?
Again, the budget that's submitted to the legislature is an estimate. As I mentioned, there was enabling legislation that was sent down to the legislature with that budget. That legislation was not acted upon, and so that revenue obviously would not be realized in this budget cycle until that legislation has been enacted upon. And the industry, the industry could be set up, and we could start realizing tax revenues from that.
All right. The legislature spent over $13,000 sending former Senator Roach and Agriculture Commissioner Nelson to Colorado and Washington in 2015. 12 senators and the governor traveled to Colorado last year. How much taxpayer money was spent on that trip?
I don't have that information before me. I would implore you to reach out to the legislature for that. They should probably have that within their record, since that was a trip that was sponsored by the Virgin Islands Legislature in collaboration with the National Council of State Legislatures. So I would implore you to reach out to them for that information.
I have sent Open Records Act requests to both the legislature and to you, because I'm assuming the governor travels with security, which would not be funded by the legislature. And I haven't even received an acknowledgement of that request. Have you gotten that request from me?
I have not seen that, but I could double check.
Please do, because I've sent it a few times now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that it for questions this afternoon? All right. Hearing no other questions, that concludes our briefing this afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week, Monday, which will be November the 21st. And I hope that it is not a holiday.